Hey, it's Maximo and welcome to Maximo's Travels. This is the first of two videos of me exploring the Tucson, Arizona area. I'll be visiting the oldest European building in Arizona, the Xavier Del Bac Mission. I'll visit the Pima Air and Space Museum and see so many rare and exotic airplanes, including the SR-71 Blackbird, the infamous B-52 bomber, and historic planes from World War II, such as the B-17 Flying Fortress. We'll do a drive-by of Arizona's famous aircraft Boneyard. I'll do a day trip to Mount Lemmon and travel on spectacular roads, take in just so many stunning vistas, each one more spectacular than the next. See snow at the top of Mount Lemmon and check out its ski fields, and delight in the fantastic visibility to see for miles and miles at grand vistas. Join me on this video as I start to explore Tucson, Arizona. Joe and I had come to Tucson, Arizona primarily to attend international gem and mineral shows, but we still managed to squeeze in a lot of sightseeing. The first attraction that we saw was St. Xavier Del Bac Mission. It was a frightfully cold day. The temperature hovered around 0 degrees and it was threatening to snow, although all we got was a little bit of sleet and rain under a dark and threatening sky. The mission was only a 15-minute drive and 7 miles away from where we were staying, near Tucson Airport. This Roman Catholic mission was founded by the Jesuits in 1692. Construction of the church began in 1783 and was completed in 1797. The church remains the oldest still standing European structure in Arizona, and it was built when this part of the world still belonged to Mexico. The church is well preserved and well maintained, and it's built in the Spanish Baroque style. The church is open daily from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and admission is free. Over the centuries, the church has weathered many natural events, such as earthquakes and lightning strikes. It was renovated after a major earthquake struck in 1887. The Catholic parish and church is very much still active, as is the nearby school. The inside of the church is quite dark with small windows. This is no doubt a result of trying to keep the non-air conditioned church cool in the very hot summer months. The church and its grounds hosts about 200,000 visitors each year. Off to the side of the church are some gardens and a small mausoleum. The garden is a typical desert garden, but it does offer stunning views of the side of the church building. And by the time we were visiting the gardens, the weather had cleared and even some blue skies started to appear. The church did look a whole lot nicer with the sun shining on it. On the opposite side of an open square, you'll find a compound that has a cafe as well as a couple of different gift shops. The gift shops sell a variety of goods, including religious artifacts as well as Native American artifacts. Yep. But sadly for me, no fridge magnets. On the other side of the square is a small hill with a cross that's located on the top of it. You can walk up to the hill and get commanding views of the surrounding area. And this is the first time that I got to appreciate both the dryness and the vastness of Arizona and the Tucson area. It really is a stunning landscape, something I've never really experienced before in my life. Halfway up the hill there was a small little grotto and memorial, including a few statues to the Virgin Mary. Unfortunately, you couldn't walk all the way up the hill. That was off limits due to religious reasons. There was a wide, well-maintained path about halfway up the hill that you could walk around and check out the landscape from many different perspectives.
The following day,
our next destination was the Pima Air and Space Museum. This is pretty much located at the end of the runway of the Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, located 14 miles southeast of Tucson, and its famous aircraft Boneyard that we did a drive-by later on in this video. We got to the museum just before opening to beat the crowds and to allow us to go to a beach show later on that day. The museum's open from 9 AM to 5 PM in the winter and from 9 AM to 3 PM in summer months. It cost $22.50 US entry for an adult. As we were the first in line, entry was an absolute breeze. As soon as you get in, you're greeted with a humongous hangar filled with dozens and dozens of airplanes, as well as some helicopters. I just couldn't get over how big and spotlessly clean the hangar and all the aircraft were. There were so many different varieties and shapes of planes. Some of them dated back to World War II. Or this ultra-rare Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird spy plane, still the fastest plane in the world, having exceeded Mach 3, nearly 2,200 miles per hour. So fast that it takes it just over an hour to fly from LA to Washington. Others were one-off prototypes. If you're an aircraft enthusiast, well then this place is for you. Joe got tickets to the public tram, which is sold on a first-come, first-served basis. I'll cover the experience that we had on the tram shortly. I continued to wander around and take plenty of footage of many different types of exotic aircraft. We hopped on the first scheduled public tram tour. This departed around about 9:30 AM, cost $10 per adult, and lasted 45 minutes. It's an excellent way to see the outdoor sections of the museum, which covers over 425 planes and 80 acres. It's absolutely huge. It was also pretty cold when we started, around 4 degrees Celsius or 39 Fahrenheit. A bit chilly there, Joe? At least the sun's out. Our tour started and I was just amazed at how knowledgeable it was.
Militarized version of the F-27 Friendship airliner designed in the Netherlands. This one was introduced to the presidential aircraft fleet in 1959. Also, the second of 5 VC-137s to have served the executive branch. During most of his life, it did carry large groups of VIPs, but it did carry President Kennedy on occasion. And then, in 1981, flying here was used to bring the 52 American hostages held in embassy in Iran back to the United States after their release. On this occasion, the aircraft used the call sign Freedom 1, which was later used again in 1991, when the plane was then used to carry American prisoners of war back from Iraq at the end of the Gulf War. Also, before being retired, served as Air Force 2, carried Vice President Gore, and then it was officially retired after that. And the next Air Force One here in this collection is the Douglas VC-118A Liftmaster. Deploying with the yellow wings and the gray body is the Sikorsky S-43 Baby Flipper from the 30s. And now then, at distance to the right, we see a current commercial airliner still being made today. Aircraft with ANA is the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. Currently, one new airliner is being made from Boeing. It's also the second one to never made, as is a prototype used in the testing and certification process from 2009 until 2011. Carries markings ANA, All Nippon Airlines, which was the first airline coming by new aircraft. One of the largest heavy-lift helicopters made for the United States Army is on our right, and it's the Sikorsky Skytrain. 1960s, the Army was looking for heavy-lift helicopters. They will carry large cargo, like artillery, vehicles, anything else, and carry a pretty good size. This one can carry up to 27,000 pounds. Now, these were originally designed by Hawker Aviation in the United Kingdom. Air is adopted by the British military and the U.S. Marine Corps in the 1970s. Underneath the wings will be 4 rotating nozzles that direct the exhaust from the engine downward for vertical flight. The silver one in the middle row is one of the experimental Kestrel prototypes tested in 1964, which then eventually led to the first production Harriers in 1969. Now, all these aircraft in the row, they were all made in England, and they served in the British Royal Navy, Air Force, and the United States Marine Corps. We're now going to our collection of long-range bombers here at the museum. Now, long-range bombing was first introduced during World War I as a way to attack industrial and military targets far away from the front lines of battle. We see on the left-hand side, it's the B-36 Peacemaker. And it is the largest bomber to ever made for the United States. Also, this one used 6 of the most powerful piston engines ever developed. And the B-36 was the last propeller-driven strategic bomber used by the United States. B-52 Stratofortress Valkyrie, painted green and gray, is our next plane we have here on today's tour.
That tram tour was brilliant, and the tour guide was just so informative. We made a short walk to the next hangar, which contained a B-17 Flying Fortress, one of the last fully intact and flyable examples of this vintage World War II plane. The airframe was immaculately preserved, and the hangar also contained a museum that contained the history of all the different bombing raids that the B-17s conducted in World War II, including the names of many thousands of airmen that served and were killed flying over Germany in that war. The upper level of the hangar also provided a brilliant location to check out all the different jets parked in the outside of the museum. We really enjoyed our stay at this museum. It is a must for plane buffs. It also features a very nice cafe and an extensive gift shop.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Another thing we really wanted to see in this area was the aircraft Boneyard. It's attached to the Davis-Monthan Air Base, and basically it's a storage space for old, obsolete or decommissioned aircraft. There's literally hundreds and hundreds of different types of aircraft, everything from fighter jets to bombers. Just fascinating to see all this surplus military equipment just sitting in the Arizona desert. Sadly, for security reasons, tours of the Boneyard are no longer offered.
2 days later.
On this day, I dropped Joe off at a beach show and made my way along a very picturesque drive to Mount Lemmon, which was about an hour and a half away and around 50 miles from Tucson Airport, where we were staying near. It was a pretty easy drive on excellent roads. Google Maps indicated it was going to take me about an hour and a half to get to Mount Lemmon, but it took me a hell of a lot longer for a couple of reasons. One is that I kept stopping at all these different scenic vantage points and just admiring the view. Secondly, I was doing below the speed limit because some of the road was quite twisty and unfamiliar, and I was driving on the wrong side of the road compared to what I was used to, so I took it nice and easy. The drive up the foothills to Mount Lemmon was truly stunning. The landscape was quite arid and filled with giant cactuses, as well as the occasional cyclist battling to get up the steep inclines. I kept stopping every couple of miles at scenic lookouts just to take in the breathtaking views. I'd been to some spectacular scenery, including the Canadian Rockies and the Dolomites in Italy's north, but this was like nothing I'd ever seen before, and I was quite surprised by the sheer number of cyclists that were trying to get up this enormous hill. Cactuses don't like growing in cold conditions, so the higher we got, the fewer cactuses I saw. I was travelling along the General Hitchcock Highway. This highway was started in 1933 and completed in 1950. It was a feat of engineering, and there would have been a lot of work cutting this highway through such rugged landscapes. Every time it was safe to do so, I stopped and just took in the vast vistas of this majestic scenery, including here at Thimble Peak Vista. I stopped for about half an hour at Windy Point Vista. This is located around about 14 miles and a half an hour drive from Mount Lemmon. The lookout is very well marked. It features quite a large car park and toilet facilities. It's probably the main lookout on the way to Mount Lemmon. There were quite a few people here and the car park was almost full. It's a great place to get out of the car, stretch your legs and wander around very interesting rock formations and take in the sweeping views. The lookout is perched on top of a cliff, and the lookout provides stunning views of the valley floor below and of the distant mountain range. There were quite a few families with young kids here. The ground was rough and uneven. There were no handrails to speak of anywhere around here. There's still a little bit of snow in parts. It's not really surprising given that the altitude of the lookout is around about just under 7,000 feet or 2,100 meters. The temperature here was around about 4 or 5 degrees Celsius, around 40 or 41 degrees Fahrenheit, and there wasn't a breath of wind. Both the conditions and the visibility were perfect. There was also a lot of loose gravel on top of the stone in this area. I did slip on 1 or 2 occasions. And if you ask me, a few people were being quite reckless in regards to their safety, especially families with quite young kids. If you've got an issue with heights, I wouldn't get too close to the edge here. I can really see why so many people come here. The rough rocks, the nearby snow-laden hills, and the valleys and mountain ranges in the distance. Truly breathtaking. Sadly, it was time for me to head back to the car and continue my drive to Mount Lemmon. As I continued to gain elevation, there began to be more and more snow by the side of the road, as well as a few cyclists bravely struggling up the steep slopes. The highway to Mount Lemmon is open all year round and there's no requirement to fit snow chains or snow tyres. I was lucky to get one of the last car spots at one of the 2 big car parks at the bottom of the summit. Basically, there's 2 ways to get to the top of the summit. One is to take a chairlift and the other way is to walk along a very well maintained path. So here I am close to the top of Mount Lemmon. The tickets for the chairlift are $17 each, and unfortunately, because there's not much snow, there is no walking up on the mountain. So all you can do is ride the chairlift up and take it straight back down again. So I thought, yeah, it's probably not worth it if you can't stop. But got to see some snow in Arizona. It's fantastic. Mount Lemmon hosts a ski school as well as a chairlift. You can also find a small chalet with vending machines, a very rustic looking restaurant with indoor and outdoor seating. The restaurant was open when I visited and it offers spectacular views of the ski fields and ski lift, both inside and outside. On the other side of the building you'll find a ski hire shop as well as a gift shop selling fridge magnets amongst other things. I just had to buy one. As I didn't go up the chairlift, I proceeded past the car park and onto a road that takes you up to the summit. Cars aren't allowed here at the time I visited. From the road, you get excellent vantage points onto the Butterfly Peak National Park and the desert that extends way beyond it. The weather was cool but perfect. There wasn't a breath of wind here. I'd estimate that you could see at least 60 miles or 100 kilometres plus in the distance. And apart from the odd child screaming uncontrollably from time to time, it was so peaceful and tranquil here. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to make it all the way up to the summit, but I believe there's an observatory there and even more stunning views of the surrounding countryside. I slowly made my way down, back to the car park. And if you could believe it, there were even more people here when I arrived earlier in the day. There was utter chaos in the car park and it definitely pays to get to these sorts of places nice and early. I had a snack and a drink that I'd brought with me, then jumped back into the car for the beautiful drive down the mountain and back to Tucson to pick up Jo from her bead show. was a hell of a lot quicker getting back to Tucson because I didn't make any stops along the way. It was truly spectacular countryside. The views from Mount Lemmon were sublime. You could see for kilometers and kilometers and kilometers under a striking blue sky with excellent visibility. I think was truly blessed with the weather. I do hope you've liked this video. If so, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Hit that notify bell so you'll never miss another upcoming video. If you'd like to support my channel, please consider buying me a coffee or hit that super thanks button. And until my next video from Arizona, you take care and bye now.